Hey everyone, welcome to our small footprint. My name is Nyssa. If you're new here, we are a large family living off-grid in Australia. It is actually Monday, and I normally do a weekly video, a Sunday squirrel of some sort, on a Sunday to share updates and whatever else with you. I started doing it yesterday because we have the patio mostly finished, which I'll show you a bit later, but Darryl and the kids didn't go to church, and then I wanted to talk about some stuff that I'm not real great with an audience when I'm talking about it. I get, apprehensive, which is why I don't do real well filming in public either. So then I started talking and I stopped, and then it poured with rain. And it was too loud out there to record anything anyway because it's a polycarbonate roof. And then everyone was around and it all just, it didn't happen. So I'm going to start again. But this should have been out this morning or yesterday afternoon, and it wasn't. And I apologise because everyone's been hanging out for this catch-up sort of a video, my normal Sunday one, to check out the patio for a start, so I can show you guys that. But also just a general beginning of the year thing. And I think that's the thing, is that I still don't really have everything set in my brain as to exactly how I wanted to verbalise stuff. And I've tried making myself some notes and stuff, and that's not really working. So what happens is that sometimes when I'm in the kitchen and I'm doing stuff and I'm talking, it all sort of tumbles out a little bit easier. So that's what we're going to do. Now it's already lunchtime, so I'm getting a late start. I made the kids pancake bake earlier this morning, but I have been doing some D&D work since then. We've got a couple of jobs on at the moment, and so we've been taking the time to try and get them finished and paid up before I start work and things like that. So I've been working on the computer most of the day. I'm a bit run down. The Christmas rush, the fact that it is so hot at the moment. It's not, I don't think the temperature's that high. Let me have a look at my weather station, which I do put a link to in a few different places. I don't know if there's one in the description at the moment, but I'll try and remember to put a link in there today because you can actually see my weather station. So it's only 33 degrees, but it is 45% humidity. 52% indoors. So it's making my 3D printing not work fantastically well either. Because the plastic gets wet and then it doesn't adhere properly and things like that. So I've been having some issues with that, printing up some orders, and it just feels gross. The pressure, the intensity, the condition in my face, the nerve condition in my face doesn't like pressure changes or wind or temperature changes or a lot of different things. So it tends to play up a fair bit, but I find that the humidity really gives me some problems as well. It just makes me really flat and makes it really hard to get motivation to do stuff, which drives me nuts because when I can't get stuff done, I get even more annoyed, and then it ends up, cyclical, and I end up getting annoyed at myself for not getting stuff done, but also then feeling crappier because I'm on my own back. And life of a mum too, part of that. But anyway, so it is late, but I had planned to make some English muffins because I just really felt like some. And so I'm going to do that anyway. It's warm, so they should proof really quickly. I've got chicken drumettes out in the fridge defrosting, which I think is what I'm going to make for dinner. And I might do some smashed potatoes or something. We've got some smashed potatoes because we've got some potatoes that need using. So I'm going really simple with food today. The kids have already had, as I said, pancake bake and a bunch of other bits and pieces, so they're not waiting on me for lunch. Darryl and I eat whenever we end up eating. I might put a coffee frappe in the Slushie machine because the kids aren't using it at the moment, and I made some cold brew yesterday, so I might do all that while I'm just talking things out. This might be a long-winded rambling sort of a thing. I wanted to cover like reflections on last year and plans for this year and things like that, but also just some like things that affect those sorts of things as well, without being too negative about anything, because that's the point too, is that I don't want to be negative about things, but at the same time sometimes you guys need some background information rather than the curated things that you see. And I've noticed that lately in some of the comments and things like that. And I don't give a lot of background information out because I don't tell other people's stories, other people's in this house. Darryl has given me permission to talk about anything I need to do with him, and he's an adult, and that's fine, but the children can't give that permission. So other than historical stuff like the babies type stuff or conditions that they've had from birth that impacted my life when they were babies, I don't really give much in the way of sort of any information about the kids' health or well-being or anything like that, other than the fact that they're, you know, well fed and happy, you know, that sort of thing. And sometimes I think that impacts people's opinions on things because they're not seeing all of that, but I'm not willing to do that either. And I don't need to. Or, you know, anyway, I'm going to pull everything together to get this dough done, because then I can set it proofing in this temperature, and it should take not very long at all. So my English muffin dough is fairly simple, and I actually shape it rather than cut it, just to make my life even easier. I can't remember how many it makes, so I'm going to have a look at the recipe and decide whether I want to do a double batch, because they freeze really well. I have realised though, when you freeze them, you do need to slice them in half and freeze them flat in halves and then put them in the bags, because otherwise they just don't defrost quickly enough, because we don't have a toaster, remember, so we're doing everything on the stovetop, and so they're too hard to get defrosted enough to cut without damaging them. So you're better off slicing them in half and then flash freezing them flat and then bagging them up. So I'll remember to do that this time too. So I've got my recipe book and I'm just going to put these together. Now, I really would like to figure out how to have the camera so that you can see the bench and me at the same time, so that when I'm doing these rambling talks, you can, like, that works. Let me have a quick play around. The more you see of me and the bench, the more you see of everything else, and the more judgment I get, mind you. So give me a sec and I'm going to pull all the ingredients out and we'll see how we go. All right, so we've got our English muffin dough in the KitchenAid. The recipe's on the website, I'll try and link it, but it's basically a tin of coconut cream or 400 grams of milk, 400 grams of water, some olive oil, some salt, some sugar, and some bread flour. Super simple. So I'm going to put a coffee frappe in the slushie to have by the time I'm ready to sit down again. So we're going to do the same thing that we have been doing, which is the recipe out of the Ninja book with a few little tweaks. So we got 700 grams of milk and then a couple of tablespoons of cream. So I just put 50 odd grams of cream in there. And then we want 700 mils of coffee. So I'm using cold brew. Nice strong cold brew. Haven't pulled the filter out of this one yet, so I will grab that. Put that in there. And then I'm just going to give this a rinse because it had some coffee grinds on it. And then we will put 700 mils of coffee too. This will be the day's worth of cold coffee. We will not drink it particularly quickly. 700 mils of coffee. Might just add that little bit of stronger bit there too, and that can go in the fridge, and that will be another one. And then we need to sweeten it. So for Darryl's benefit, we have the liquid allulose, which it wants 120 grams of caster sugar is what it actually asks for. So we do the same in, or approximately, in sweetener. So there was 90 grams ish left of the allulose, and then I will do, we have the Choc Zero vanilla. The salted caramel is really nice. I've run out actually. So 4 pumps of that one in there. And then I'm just going to whisk it up and I'm going to throw it in the slushie machine. So this will be for later. I just thought I'd go over that for anyone who hasn't watched the purely slushie machine recipes because they don't interest them. And then this dough can go in a container to proof. All right, dough is done. Now I'm trying to figure out, what have I got? 1.1, 1.5, 1.9, about 2 kilos. If I do 90 gram, we're going to get like 25 out of this. If I if I want to freeze some, I probably need to do a second batch. I was thinking too, I did see someone mention the other day about making English muffins in bulk and then freezing them, and then the kids could pull them out and make little mini pizzas, you know, like English muffin pizzas with them, which would be quite a good idea too, I think, especially if I'm going to split them in half and freeze them, because then they could just pull a half out and then stick it in the oven with a bit of cheese and tomato and pizza sauce and have little mini pizzas. So I think I'll make a double batch. I always regret it, mind you, once it gets to shaping and stuff, because the dough starts to get away from me, but I still think it's worth it. So I'm going to make up a second batch of that, and then I will come back. All right, both doughs are done, and just before I start chatting, I know I get sidetracked, don't I? I was cleaning up the freezers yesterday, noticed that I had 2 bags open of diced bacon. I'm going to fry all this up because I'm going to make, I pulled the other kilo of imitation crab seafood extender out to make another seafood salad for the kids. So I'm going to cook this up, but this might be nice on the smashed potatoes as well. So I'm just going to throw all of this in. Obviously it wasn't sealed properly, it's a little bit freeze burnt. It doesn't matter because the water is just going to evaporate off and we will get the bacon nice and crispy. So while I'm doing this, Darryl just cooked himself some Kransky for lunch, so I'm going to throw this in that pan since it's already hot while I'm waiting for the dough and while I have a chat to you. You also need to turn the last couple of brioche rolls that were left into breadcrumbs because they might be nice mixed with a little bit of citrus zest and some parmesan and stuff sprinkled over the potatoes as well. When I made hamburgers the other night, I left the hamburger buns in the oven because it's a secure place from anything getting to it, except that it's a gas oven and has a pilot light, and the kids then, so I left them there overnight knowing that it'd be fine to have them toasted again the next day, but the kids left them there after that as well. So these ones are very dried out, croutony, so I'm going to turn them into breadcrumbs. Darryl and I have been talking about I need to have something secure in the kitchen even once the kitchen's done properly, because it's never going to be completely sealed. I don't actually want a completely sealed kitchen. The point of living off grid is to be somewhat part of nature, but also there's an airflow factor, like if it's all walled in it's too hot, and you know, all those sorts of things. So it will have a back wall along here to help with some of the glare and things like that, and so that I've got space to hang stuff, but most of the rest of it will be open. We will screen it probably, and we were talking about how we might do Avery mesh and then screening, because that would be a support for the screen but would also be rodent proof. We'll see how we go. But I was talking about how, sorry, I'm squirreling out already, aren't I? The baker's trolleys, you can get them secondhand quite regularly on Marketplace from kitchens that have closed down, and they have the big gastronome racks and stuff that fit on them, and you can buy them as well, sometimes secondhand, sometimes new. And then if I create a box that wheels in and out of that is covered with Avery mesh and insect mesh, then I could have things like this while it's cooling on the racks inside that box, so they're still getting airflow, they're not sweating, which is part of the problem with putting them in containers straight away or that sort of thing, is that they sweat and then they end up sticky and not crunchy like you want a bread roll to be, or other certain things. So that way I could put things in there. I do buy the nets that pop over things and I use them regularly. You'll have seen me use them, and I've got a couple that are more rigid circular ones, but I don't always have everything in a shape that fits those, that utilizes them very well, but also it takes up bench space. So like if I have a tray of something and I've got the big net over it, that's using up the bench space to do that. So it's not always convenient. So one of those racks is something that we've got planned for when we get the kitchen sorted eventually. We have been discussing, so all right, we will come back to that. So first, chat video discussion for 2026. I'm going to address a few different things, and we'll talk about a few different things and get your feedback on a few different things, and just that in general. I think I haven't gone back and watched it because I hate watching myself. It's bad enough having to watch myself when I'm editing, let alone having to watch myself back on previous videos. But I think probably last January when I did something similar, some of the goals that I set last January are still going to exist now. Things like the kitchen, I'm sure I had that goal and we've made progress, we just haven't, got there. we wanted to replace our composting toilet with one of the bigger underfloor chamber ones, but we want to build that off the bathroom so that the toilet isn't in the bathroom, because with 7 people living in the house, it is amazing how everyone needs to pee when you're in a shower. And that's just, it's life. But it'd be really nice to have the toilet in its own separate space. And again, we've got the washing machine and stuff in the bathroom as well. And I'd prefer that in its own separate space. So the idea was to build off the back of the bathroom. There is a door that is in part of the building that we've got blocked off because we didn't need it, because it goes out into dead air. But build a landing out there, and the toilet can be out there, and then there can be a landing that's screened off that has the washing machine and stuff on it, because you can step straight from that landing out into the clothesline as well. So, and I'm sure we had plans for that last January. It's still in progress. Everything is still in progress. The problem with the things that need doing, because people always say, it's like the Amazon lists and stuff, and people always say, make sure to update your Amazon list and all that. But all the small stuff, which is stuff that I feel comfortable for people purchasing, we pretty much purchase ourselves. It's really not that big a deal. I'm very good at budgeting. We have low overheads, and I manage. Whether it's using interest-free, or I do borrow money from my mum occasionally for big things like the car. So we just had to replace the starter motor and stuff in the car. That was another $1,500 in the ute. So we've spent like 12 grand on that car in the last 6 months. It's frustrating. If we had have known it was going to rack up like that, we would have got something different rather than repairing the one that we've got. But it is what it is, and it has been done, and now we're stuck. So I paid outright for all the initial repairs because I got the bonus from Thermomix. So I paid outright for all the initial repairs. I paid for Sonnet's new orthotics and all these sorts of big costs. And then we got the next big bill in, and Mum lent me the money for that, and I pay her back on a fortnightly basis, and we have a running total going. But in general, I have the ability to get everything we need that's on the small scale. It's only the big stuff that we struggle with, and that's the stuff that keeps on getting waylaid, and the stuff that keeps on getting, commented on. It's like the kitchen roof and stuff like that. We had to acquire certain things to do it, and we did, and then we struggled because it wasn't quite working how we wanted it to work with just the two of us, and so it's been waylaid again, and it'll get there. The back room for the toilet and stuff it's a big outlay. We would love and absolutely adore a bore. Water is such a drama. Getting enough because we have all the animals, and then minimal gardens at the moment, but when we had the bigger gardens, and the kids have the pool in summer, and then just general drinking water, it constantly feels like we're having to fetch water because we're just low somewhere. Having a bore and having it set up on solar to fill holding tanks and stuff would be absolutely amazing, but it's not something that we're going to be able to do anytime soon. We would need to have at least 25 grand put away so that we would know that no matter where they hit water, we would have enough. It may not cost us anywhere near that much, but we'd need it there just in case. One of the other big things is the roof. So the roof out here leaks, obviously, because it's temporary roofing. That's part of the problem. But the roof inside leaks as well in certain spots. And what I believe the cause of it is that when we got the buildings delivered, they were placed on concrete stumps. It's on the lengthwise concrete stumps. That's what the building is on, because the building's it's got a steel base on it. And we had some really significant weather and some really significant flooding, which the caravan out here, I don't know if it's in this shot, but the caravan that's behind me, I get comments on that a lot too. We had this really significant, we didn't flood as such, but we did, but it went on a certain path. So that particular water path went underneath the caravan and out that way, but it also went all the way under the house, and we've had some settling. So that caravan has tilted all the way forward because all the ground was eroded out from underneath it in that water, and so it sunk. And now eventually we will do something with that. We're looking to strip it back, use the frame or whatever else, but it's just not high on the list at the moment. It's just, we're not spending money on that at the moment. But I'd say some of the buildings settled a little bit too, nowhere near to the extreme because it's on big concrete stumps, and that's a much larger buildings and things like that, and they're joined together and stuff. but there is some points that are now lower than they should be, and water tends to pool in the ceiling and it'll drip. So every time it rains, we have to use buckets and stuff, and we haven't been able to do anything about it. Now, the only thing we can do is re-roof it. Like a skin roof over the top or something of the roof that's already there that has a different slope. But we have solar panels all over the roof. We have siliconed. We have used some of the tape that you use, the silver tape that is watertight. We've used some of the, we've even bought some of those, you know, gimmicky type paints that are rubberized that are supposed to go over the roof and stop it leaking and everything. And we have not found a solution. So there's some of these things that, like the bore and the roofing and stuff like that, that it's going to be a very long-term thing to fix. And some of the short-term stuff is short-term for us, but I think feels like it's lengthy to some of you guys because you would move on it quicker if you could. But that brings us to the whole fact that I only share a curated portion of our lives. I don't curate as much as a lot of people, but I still curate because that's just, it's inherent that you are going to put your best foot forward. Now, my best foot is not as good as some other people's best feet, but it's still what you do. You still curate to a degree because people are judgmental, and that's just the way the world works. So I'm stirring the bacon in between as well. So whilst it feels like we're not getting enough done, or we don't do enough, or we're being lazy, or we don't clean enough, or we don't whatever, that's, you know, picking and choosing from a few different, you know, comments and stuff, we don't share everything because it would be inappropriate. But I also kind of live by the fact that if you wallow and dwell on the negative too much, then it becomes overwhelming. If you, like, I am a chronic pain sufferer, and if I allowed that to become like forefront in everything I did, and if I worked around that in every way, it would become overwhelming. It would become the only thing that I could focus on, and the only thing that everything else is worked around. So even though there may be challenges going on that I might infer or I might reference, I don't necessarily dwell on any of it because, well, honestly, it's none of your business. Like, what I share, that's not a very nice way to put it, is it? Because I'm choosing to share my life, and so therefore my life is your business because I'm choosing to share it. But not every tiny little detail of my life needs to be shared, or less my life because I'm the one choosing to do that, but more everyone else in the household's life. So, like, you know, I've discussed in passing things about the children in, you know, as babies and stuff. Like, you know, I've mentioned that Apollo has OI, or brittle bone disease, and had like 13 breaks by the time he was 7. And Sonnet has bilateral talipes, or club feet, and that has impacted us throughout our lives because she had to have plaster casts and surgeries and boots and bar, and she has to wear orthotics in her shoes and things like that. None of those things are personal as such. They are just things that impact our lives as a whole. Sorry, stirring bacon again, but Darryl's also heading to the bore, so we were just getting stuff sorted. All right, so this is where my squirreling becomes a challenge to remember where I was at. There is a balancing point of trying to decide how much is okay to share and how much isn't. that historical part of the sort of saying is Apollo with his OI and Sonnet with her club feet, and then the twins were born at 33 weeks. We also have a few children who are autistic, amongst other things, some mental health issues and things like that, as most families do. But I don't focus on it because that's their story, not mine. Darryl has significant mental health problems. He has complex PTSD. Which impacts our lives in many very complex ways. But is, again, not something I heavily discuss. Darryl has given me complete permission to do so. He has no problem whatsoever if I discuss that. But in general, I choose not to. But yeah, it's a thing. You have to share enough that people get invested, because, okay, we'll come to another point here. There has been some comments lately about how I don't seem to be enjoying what I'm doing, and it's sad that I have to do it. Now, I don't know many people who have a job, and this is a job that they enjoy most of the time, who don't have periods of time where it's hard work, where going to work or doing the work every day is hard. Like, is that not just the norm? Like, I've worked a lot of jobs in my life, and I've enjoyed a lot of jobs that I've worked, but there are still moments in every job that are less enjoyable, less pleasant, or just sheer hard work. And this is a job. It's a job I enjoy. It's a hobby that I enjoy that happens to make me money. But it's still a job, and it still requires a certain amount of my time and input to maintain. If I didn't have the audience that I have, and if I wasn't earning the money that I'm earning, there is no way that I could spend the time that I spend on the channel still, like, unless I had a rich husband. You can't spend this much time on something, whether it's something you enjoy or whether it's a hobby or whatever else, without some compensation, unless you're a really wealthy person. And even then, most wealthy people still wouldn't spend this quantity of time on something without some sort of a kickback, because your time is worth something. My time is worth something. So whilst I enjoy YouTube most of the time, and I thoroughly enjoy the community that has become, and I recognize so many names every video with comments, and I try super hard to have conversations with people. I answer just about every private message I ever get. I try and personally, discuss anything that someone questions. Like if someone asks me about a product or something, I try really hard to find it and link it and things like that. And all of that is time. It's time that is pleasantly spent, but it's still time. And my time is worth something. So whilst sometimes it feels like a chore getting videos out, and yes, I admit that sometimes it does, there is certain things that have to be done to maintain the channel. And part of that is consistent videos, trying to keep the length of the videos consistent, trying to keep the amount of people viewing the videos consistent, all that sort of thing, so that YouTube continues to support my channel. Interrupted. Sonnet and Darryl are just heading off to the tip now. So we were just getting gas cans in the car and stuff for that. He'll fetch some water while he's at it and fill some petrol cans for the generators and things like that. So I don't know where I was at. I was discussing sharing and limits of sharing, and the ability to share enough to keep people interested, but not so much that you feel like you're sharing things you shouldn't, but also the fact that it's a job, and even if you enjoy a job, it's still a job, and that sometimes you like jobs and sometimes you don't. Like sometimes some days are better than others and some days aren't. But if you want to consistently earn an income for your family, then you have to deal with the good days and the bad days. And I have to do that as well. And I think sometimes people forget that, yes, whilst it's an enjoyable hobby, it's also a job, because I couldn't use all this time on YouTube if it wasn't. I did this first batch of dough, I forgot to put yeast in it, and I've gone back and I've added yeast and re-kneaded it, but there are still some significant chunks of yeast in this, so I'm going to have to knead this, which is fine because it'll actually give me a little bit of time between the two batches, which is not a bad thing. So let's get that knead. I'm all over the place. This is normal for one of these, especially because I'm trying to do other stuff as well. I've got the first lot of English muffins in the pans. They take 4 to 6 minutes each side, lid on, steaming, cooking. I'll show them to you at the end. So sideways from all that is that we not only have to cater to the audience and what the audience would like to watch, though I only do that to a degree. I'm not very good at being fake or sharing things that aren't relevant to our life. And because of that, I don't grow anywhere near as quickly as other people. My thumbnails aren't great. My topics don't seem to attract a wide audience. I keep my community fairly small. I don't have a problem with that as such. I have a very good community, and I never wanted to be a ginormous YouTube superstar because that just leads to more negativity. But it would be nice to have a little bit of growth. And so the sideways from that was that I was talking to Rachel from Bush Edge Homesteading, and it seems like a lot of us smaller channels, especially Australian ones, just aren't getting seen. YouTube is not pushing us out to the masses. And pros and cons, as I said, like I don't really want something to go viral, because then you get a whole lot of people who don't know your history and don't know your story commenting and making observations and assumptions based on very little information, and that sucks. But at the same time, growth is good to keep you motivated to keep on working hard, because YouTube is hard work. I know it doesn't seem like that to a lot of people, and I know that it's viewed as less of a job, which is why I think that there's the whole thing about if you don't enjoy it, stop doing it. Cool. If I worked in an office and I didn't enjoy it, would I just stop going? Would my life still continue to progress the same way? It wouldn't. And that's the whole point, is that whilst we were managing prior to YouTube, and we were, because I am very good at budgeting, and I make ends meet no matter what we've got, whether we've got 5 cents to make ends meet or we've got $5. But having YouTube has allowed us a little bit more freedom. It has allowed us for me to go shopping and not count every single cent. I used to have to count on my phone every dollar that I was spending in Costco, because Costco was the last stop, to make sure that I had enough money to buy fuel to get home and anything that needed to come out of the account before any more money come in and things like that. That is less of an issue now. I'm still very aware of what I'm spending, and still very aware of trying to spend money in the most appropriate way. But I have a little bit more flexibility, and YouTube has given me that. And I am super grateful to YouTube and to all of you guys for watching and allowing me to do what I'm doing, because you guys are the reason I can. I don't know why anyone watches me. I wouldn't watch me. And I find watching myself when I'm editing horrible. But I am super grateful that you guys choose to. And that YouTube continues to allow me to share. And I know that YouTube is not a forever. It's something that we will use as we can for as long as we can, but it's not something that can be relied on as a forever future. I never really intended to work out of the home again, always intended to do stuff from home, whether it's bookkeeping or admin or whatever. YouTube sort of was something that I had never really... originally Darryl was going to do it when we first moved out, but more in the, building and stuff sense, and that didn't work out at the time. So I ended up sharing kitchen stuff, and it went well, so that's where we've taken it, sort of thing. But I never really intended to work out of the home again. I have the new job starting this year at the school, and that was something that sort of fell in my lap, and I decided to pursue. Now, the thing with a lot of the work that we do is it's inconsistent. YouTube pays monthly, but only pays based on views and things like that, so it can be inconsistent. The D&D work that we do as well can be inconsistent, depending on jobs and when we get it done and when the client pays and all that sort of thing. And my transcription work is, again, it's inconsistent. It's when they need me, they use me, and when they don't, they don't. So having a position that has a set income every fortnight will just make things a little bit simpler and will hopefully allow us to put more away, because as most people know, the more often you get paid, the easier it is to save, even if you're earning the same amount. So even though we try and put money away, because we get paid so intermittently, sometimes you end up robbing Peter to pay Paul, and then when you get paid you have to pay that back, and so therefore you're not ahead. Having a consistent fortnightly, or however, I don't actually know how often I'm getting paid, whatever it is, will allow us hopefully to budget that through a little bit better. But it is something else that is changing again this year, and that is going to impact the sharing, what I decide to film and when, and life in general. We had a really big year last year. There was a lot that happened that I didn't share, and I probably never will. And then we had the things that I did share, like the change in schooling, and the dramas with the car, and just a whole bunch of stuff that happened. And I feel like we lost time last year. I feel like instead of making much in the way of any sort of progress on anything that I wanted to make progress on, we stagnated last year. And I feel like YouTube has done a little bit the same for the year. And maybe that's part and parcel of it. Maybe it's the stagnate of getting things done, of just the world in general that we lived last year, that has impacted YouTube. And maybe this year will be a little bit better. I don't know. So, yeah, I don't know. I've rambled, and I have no idea what I've covered and what I haven't, and how, whether it makes sense or not, because I couldn't get it down on paper. I was trying to put something down that I could use from notes, but then when I was sitting down trying to use those notes, it just wasn't working, because that's just not really me. I'm not very good at sticking to a script, I suppose, is the thing. My brain doesn't work that way. It likes to veer off into all the different little spots and take you along with me, and some people follow well and some people don't. I still get a lot of comments about I talk far too fast, and especially I'd imagine when I'm doing this kind of talking, I definitely do, because I'm thinking as I'm talking, and I'm sure my brain and my mouth don't really sync up very well. But that is the way it is, and I can't do anything different with it. So anyway, I need to pull these first lot of muffins off the pan. First lot of muffins off. This is what we're going for. These lovely, fluffy, crispy topped English muffins. So that's the first lot off the pan. And I'm going to keep going. I might have a think. I might have to look back at some of what I've done, because I really just don't know. And I might finish it all off out on the patio to share, because I'm sure this has been plenty long enough and I don't know where I'm at. So it's been a little bit of a ramble. But yeah, I'm going to leave it there for the moment, finish these muffins, and then I'll show you the patio and talk out there. Alrighty, so all the English muffins are done and they're covered and cooling. And we're out on the patio. Now, one thing we haven't done yet is put a fan out here. It's humid, you can tell by my hair, my goodness, it's just, anyway, it's very humid still. We had a little sprinkle of rain, but not enough to do anything worthwhile. Let me check what the weather station says at the moment. Says it's 29 degrees, but 52% humidity out here, so super pleasant. Now, I haven't looked back at what I did. What I will do is I will edit all this, and tonight, if I need to, I'll go out into the kitchen and add a little bit in, like I do sometimes. The kids have just got in the pool. The small kids have got in the pool. Sonnet is with Darryl doing the tip run. Apollo's on his headset, I think. But those English muffins are done, so I need to, it's 2:45, so within the next couple of hours I need to start dinner. And I will edit this probably this evening and then go through it and see if there's anything else I need to add a few words into, because I've been all over the place and I don't even know if I've covered everything. I think that this might be broken up into a few videos because I really need to think about what the plans are for this year as well. And, you know, I discussed the fact that some of the things that I wanted to get done the last year still are going to be this year's plans as well. So it's kind of good to verbalize them to someone who isn't just Darryl and I, someone else, and that's, you guys become a bit of a sounding board for me, and I love the interaction that I get from people who've been through the experience and things like that as well, and I always take it on board, and I'm always very polite to responses, whether you're polite or not. I am fairly tolerant, thick-skinned and polite, because I understand that you're only seeing a snippet of my life. I just think that sometimes you guys need to understand that as well. That as much as I am a big sharer, and I do share a lot, there is a lot that I don't as well. I only have 2 or 3 videos a week on average, and you know, that's an entire week's worth of life, which is why sometimes on my Sunday chest I sit there and I go, I feel like I've got nothing to share because I'm not sharing certain things, and then, you know, anyway. So anyway, patio. We have our feature wall here. This is, so we pulled the couch out. This is an old couch that my aunt had, and it actually pulls out into a day bed. So it's great. It's not very comfortable, but it's perfect for what we want for this outdoor space. I need to buy, I've got a sit-up cushion there, but I'm going to buy myself or make myself some nice cushions and stuff. We've got, this is the wall this is our bedroom here. So this is the metal sandwich panel wall. We will eventually do some sort of feature wall there, but then we put this timber up here, which I'm going to sand and stain eventually, which is the weather protection for this back corner. And then that's the rest of that corner of the patio there on that end. And then, so back corner here, feature wall, back corner here, and then we've got the rest of it as we had. Step ladder was what I was using to balance the camera on, because I need to sort out my tripod and stuff. So what we did was we put some flooring down here. This was excess flooring from when we did the extension. And I'm going to box that in, and I'm going to put some actual flooring on it and make this very much my little outdoor escape type thing. The rest of it is just decking timber. And we put tread side up, which is, when we think about it now, if we had have put the flat side up, we probably could have made it look prettier, but honestly, I don't really need the rest of it too, because it'll probably be plants. So at the moment we've got all the trees out here because we haven't finished the garden space, but that set of shelves there behind that glass door there is my seed starting shelf. So it has all the LED lights and everything on it, and my heat mats and everything that I use to start seeds normally. I didn't use it this year, but having it out here means that I can. So I'm thinking that I might do a drop down table off the wall for my seed, so I can work on my seedlings. I've got my potting table out there, but I think I want to move that over to the new garden structure when I get the garden structure done. It's too bulky. I don't want it in here. And eventually this will have a gate. So we've got all the screening up, but we haven't finished the gate here. We did put a shade sail up above here just to cut some of the glare. It's not perfect. That one is just a temporary thing for the moment, but it works to just reduce the glare and the heat a little bit out here. I wanted something that could be put up and pulled down in winter though, because I want the sunlight out here in winter. I'm really looking forward to the idea of being able to, when the weather's a little bit cooler, curl up on this couch with a blanket and slippers and jammies, and read a book and things like that. So I definitely want some more cushioning around here. We got the coffee table out here. It's the one that lifts up slightly so that I can do my puzzles and stuff on it, and just have this little bit of living space, because at the moment all the space that's inside is purposeful space. We don't have any living space. The kids do. They have couches and TVs and all that sort of stuff, but for us all our space is full of purposeful stuff. We've got all the 3D printers and all the desks and all the bookcases and everything else. There is no relaxation space. So what happens is that I spend most of my life at my desk doing whatever I need to do, whether it's watching YouTube or working or editing or whatever else. And then when I've had enough of being at my desk, I move to my bed and I go to bed. That's sort of the limit of it. So having this out here is just this extra slightly distant space. And I'll probably get one of those, you know, those wheelie tables that go under the chair, under the couch or whatever, that I can put my laptop on, so I could potentially even edit out here, which would be really nice. In winter it'll be too cold, but we did consider maybe a small potbelly stove or something for out here if that's what we wanted. I don't know. We'll see. The outdoor living space without bugs will be just bliss. I'm really, really enjoying it. The Costco solar lights are amazing. I think I took a photo of them, so I'll put a photo in here of them, or if I get the chance I'll do a quick film, like a quick pan of it when they're on tonight, if I haven't finished editing and stuff for then. So yeah, I'm really happy with the patio, and it's really nice to have something that's mostly complete. There is one spot that we've got some leaking. It rained, so we need to silicone one little patch, but the rest of it all seems to be working well. And we do need to put a gutter on it. We've got overhang of roofing at the moment, so we need to cut the roofing back and put gutter on this to collect water. But yeah, it's pretty exciting to have it mostly done, and now it just needs to be prettied up, which I don't get a chance to do very often, because I spend a lot of time on the practical and less on the aesthetics of things. So that's the thing about the kitchen too. Once we eventually get the kitchen done, to be able to look into the aesthetics of the kitchen, not just the practicality of it, will be really nice, and it's nice to do that for out here. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there. When I edit, I might find that there's some stuff that I need to mention, and I will do so. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Thanks for watching.